Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another live stream on the Nobel Twitch channel. My name is Nobel, and today we are going to be playing some Minecraft. Also, apologies for no stream last Friday, as well as this one being later in the day. I was unfortunately, I woke up late both Friday and the other day for the streams, and while today's one is only a 3-hour one, so I can just push it back, Friday's is 6 hours, and I don't want to be up till like 2 in the morning streaming, unless it's a special thing. So I decided I was going to spend some time with my friends and my partners and enjoy that. But yeah, let's get right on into the Minecraft. Working on the item sorter thing. We've got a feckload of bamboo. And honestly, I don't want that clogging up my inventory, but what I am going to need is tools. So, grab myself some wood. Some cobblestone. This I see a Shrubber going live. We'll get loved on and supported nerd. Aw, well thank you, Tez, and hello. Alright, that seems like a good assortment of tools. Now, we've partially hacked down the bamboo farm. Now, one thing I don't know about is how I'm going to deal with this panda. I'm thinking I'm just going to move it over. Yeah, that should work. And today's probably going to be more of a chill chit-chatting stream as I get this all dug out. One thing I have not yet done is watch the rails to see what the hell keeps happening with them. So I'm not going to start on construction of any rail system yet. I think probably this is going to all start off as a manual system. Ow. Where I've got a, no, I know the TUM image isn't there. It hasn't been there for a while because this is all work in progress stuff. Yeah, we're working on a reworked stream setup, and one of the things that's currently on the back burner is the TUM stuff. So me and Jensen are working on a new VTuber model for the stream. It's going to be a 3D render, and we're going to have a bunch of stuff 3D rendered up. New backdrop, stuff for the foreground, background, new transitions, things like that. Aw, thank you, Crystal Wing. How you doing, Borb Goral? So this is a single-player world on Java Edition, not a server. However, there is something, DM me about it so I don't forget. There is something that I think you might find interesting, that me and a friend are working on, that you may or may not be interested in. Yes, it is, with lore. And hello, Pillow, how you doing? Speaking of, Pillow, message me on Discord. There's something I need to tell you about. Doing good. How's the Minecraft? Going pretty good. Right now, I'm just working on digging out the area for an item sorter for what is going to be my forever world. I don't intend on scrapping it. Alright, and there goes another one. Yeah, so this whole area that I'm digging out is going to be where our item sorter goes, that we designed up in the last stream. And that was the last of my shovels, so I've got to go make some more. And I think this is the update with copper tools in it, so if I've got some spare copper, maybe I'll play around with that. Some more spoons there. I got a bunch of old tools that I kind of need to use up as well. Just sort of loosely tossed every which way. How goes the pillow? Oh, right, you said you're doing good. Good. Good, 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 good. Alrighty, and I'm just gonna make the one because I'm gonna need lots of copper for making the copper golems. I just want to see how good this thing is. Goofy, thank you for doing first. Hope you enjoy the golden cookie and your oat crisp. Alright, this thing seems slightly faster than the stone. Floofy, thank you for the helm scream. Alrighty, and... But first we grab another. I can't hoard all the gold cookies. That's fair. To be fair, there are enough cookies to fill the 64-bit integer limit, which is, Ziggy. What is the biggest number the 64-bit integer limit can hold?
64-bit signed in. Hold up until quadrillion, 2 trillion, 30 million, 70, 7.
Yeah, that's how many golden cookies there are. Like, it's into the quintillions. Why are there golden cookies into the quintillions? Because the 64-bit integer limit is what Mix It Up bot uses, and that's so I'm just like, okay, how many golden cookies? Like, what's the max I can stuff in here so I don't have to refill this again? And I just put 9s until it wouldn't let me put any more 9s, and then I went, okay, cool, that's the limit. Oh, poor Floofy. Big hugs. You may have found a penguin lover like me. Aww, who might that be? Ah, nice. That's very sweet. I'm glad you found a penguin lover named Zenith. Aw, that's good. I am glad. I do want to burn through all of the old tools before I start making new ones. That's honestly part of the impetus for the sorting system.
Conjure yourself a groin so I might kick it.
There should be no groin kicking today. I know you want to kick, but you should not kick. Not unless they deserve it, of course. Medications rocketed a little. Like, in price? Like, they got more expensive, or... Oh, geez, that's fucked. That is way too much. And is that for like a month, or is that for an even shorter duration? Because if it was like an every 2 weeks thing, that would be fucking insane. Okay, three months worth, $42. That's... Let's see, Ziggy. What's 42 divided by 3? Ziggy, what's 42 divided by 3?
42 by 3. 14.
It's about $14 a month. That's not too bad. I spend about 40-ish bucks a month on my meds, all totaled. Scooping up all of the scoopy dirt. Scooping up all of the scoopy dirt. Scooping up all of the scoopy dirt, 'cause it needs to get out of here. Scoops of scoopy dirt. Scooping up all of the scoopy dirt. Moreau,
I'm
doing something extremely wicked.
If you're
Nearby, feel my presence. I love that bit. Thank you for the boop. Outside of the med stuff, how was your day, Crystal? Was work good? Was it bad? What's going on? Aw, well, thank you. And Dragon King, welcome to the Tom. But, yeah. Also, Dragon Fox King, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. Also, just to let you know, I know you've liked redeeming the Book of not the Book of Questions. Book of Questions was replaced with This Day in History. But I now also no longer have the This Day in History thing. So it's going to be replaced soon with a Wikipedia deep dive, or rather 5-minute dive, where I get given a random Wikipedia page to go check out. Personally, I'm looking at bringing back the Book of Questions, but with the new and improved Book of Questions 2.0. It's written by the same guy, but it's just more questions. Alright, and the last of my spoons is nearing distraction. So, I want to see how much this copper spoon can do. So, I have a little bit of a project that I've been starting work on. So, one thing that I have some amount of issue with is that copper spoon worked pretty well. Better than a stone one, I think. I'd have to put the two in a head-to-head competition, but I don't really feel like doing that right now. I'll just make another copper one. So, I don't like YouTube Shorts. I don't like short-form content. I don't like, lots of things about YouTube Shorts. I've never gotten into TikTok, you know. I think there are some very funny, very interesting YouTube shorts, you know? There are ones that I get sent that I like. You know, it's not that I dislike all YouTube shorts, it's that as a concept, I don't find them very satisfying in the long run. And one other thing I don't particularly like doing is scrolling. Now, I've worked out kind of why I do it is either because I have time to kill, I don't know what I'm looking for, or some other factor. You know, I want to do something, I want to watch something, but I don't know what I want to watch. And so rather than not watching something, I will scroll until something seems kind of interesting and I'll put that on. And I don't think that's really a proper solution to the problem. So I saw an interesting video on my YouTube home page, just when I opened the app, which was someone resurrecting a cable-style TV thing as a little Raspberry Pi project. And I thought, that looks interesting. And so what you do is you take videos that you have access to, and you basically put them in there on a schedule of sorts. You set up when they're supposed to run, when they're not supposed to run. You can actually configure them right down to the date and the hour when they should run. Though it's actually capable of generating its own schedule from all the content that you put in there based on logical rules. It's not a black box algorithm like an AI. When I say generate, it's a very ordered algorithm that a human actually sat down and designed. And you can put in ads and all sorts of things like that. So what I'm considering doing is building myself one of those. So when it's like, you know, I've got a few minutes and I want to watch something, I can just flip to that, and it's like, okay, I can watch that for a few minutes. You know, if it's something that I find really interesting, I can keep watching it. If it's something that I'm not really having a good time with because it'll have the ad breaks and things like that, I'll have a nice natural breaking point to go, not really feeling it. And basically it's a little low-power device that can just sit in the background and exist. I did not mean to fall down this hole. Also, just in case anyone is wondering what texture pack I'm using, it is the developer art, or the programmer art continuation pack. We don't really get programmer art anymore, so it's trying to keep that same style of older eras of Minecraft. Taking inspiration from the way the developers used to do their developer art. But, you know, anyway, so I think that'd be a kind of a neat thing to do, you know, I can, you know, the other thing too is it'll be curated, so I'll know that it's stuff that I find enjoyable. But yeah, that's the idea, is I can just set up that little device and have it hooked into the media network that I'm planning on building. So, very briefly, right now, I'm walking away from my crafting table. Right now, I have a media setup that I'm not really a fan of. But I am thinking about reworking the way everything is laid out. along with a room reno that I'm thinking about doing. Hopefully once I get some more money coming in. What I want to do is build a media shelf. Probably going to buy a media shelf, I'm going to be honest. And have all of my consoles, my computer, all up there. And then through some nice hidden cabling that I'm planning on running throughout the whole installation, I'll be able to basically have everything on one part of the wall, but have it accessible from multiple other parts. So, you know, my computer's main screen, you know, have my TV able to show it, my, you know, main monitor able to show it. The auxiliary monitors will just be over here. My console's able to be flipped around between everything. Things like that. Including that little switch, that little, what'd you call it? Like a TV box type thing. And it's kind of like those little Android devices that you can get where it's like, oh, you know, it comes with like Plex or this media player thing full of, you know, the ability to have content, but you have to kind of do it yourself. And those are always kind of sketchy, whereas I'm going to be using content that I do already own. You know, digitizing all of my DVDs and movies and things like that. I've got a bunch of VHS tapes. I've got a bunch of content that would be really nice to have access to. And so digitizing that is already a thing I want to do this year. So taking that media library and putting it into a device that will also help with the scrolling thing, I think is a good idea. The other thing that's kind of nice about the box thing is you can set up channels. And hello, how you doing, Warlio Wetslan? I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that name, but welcome into YouTube, or welcome onto the YouTube side of the stream. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing all right. Just talking about a little project I'm planning on doing at some point. But yeah, so I'll have all of my my media all nice and stored there, and then the nice thing about that little project box, the Raspberry Pi based TV box, is you can set up little channels for it, where it's like, you know, this has this stuff and this has that stuff, and you can set it up. So I could have like all of my Star Trek, Men in Black, Star Wars. Yes, I am. I could have Gundam, I could have all sorts of the sci-fi stuff on one channel. I could have, you know... Ah, Riley, thank you for the head pats. I could have the sitcoms, like, Corner Gas, Hiccups, The Office, oh, what are some other sitcoms I can think of off the top of my head? Schitt's Creek, that's pretty good. I've got that on DVD. You know, I could take all of those and I could put them on a sitcoms channel. I could build an infomercials channel with shitloads of early 2000s infomercials. Get some of the stuff that was still airing from Billy Mays from the 90s. That stuff was always kind of interesting to tune into. When you woke up first thing in the morning. But yeah, Brawlu, I am a femboy. But I did also want to finish the thought there about the little project box thing. So it would get rebroadcast on Chronogast would get rebroadcast up here on CTV, which you could get every so often. If everything was just right, you could sometimes catch it. The weather would have to be just right, though. And there goes my copper. Did I put something in here? Where the fuck did this cobblestone come from? There we go. Alrighty, now... Is it that we're out of bamboo, which is my guess at what it is, or is it that we're out of kale, or kelp, not kale? Yeah, we've got plenty of kelp, it's the bamboo we're out of. That's a little restock of it. Playing on a PC or console? I am playing on PC. And it is not interesting gameplay. I am literally digging out a pit. But thank you. I'm digging out an area for a sorting system. Which we designed up last Monday. Because it's just another Minecraft Monday. 25. Another Minecraft. Wish you and Mother's a wonderful day. You guys are awesome. Mean a lot to me in being such an awesome friend. Aw, well, thank you, Tiz. You're an awesome friend and you mean a lot to me as well. Aw, thank you, Tiz. By the way, in case anyone doesn't know, this is a simulcast stream. I am streaming both on YouTube and on Twitch. So there's 2 simultaneous streams. Alrighty, let's get this all mined out. I mean, I suppose that's what I'm already doing, but you know. Just vocalizing internal thoughts. But yeah, I don't really feel like relying on streaming services either anymore. I'm pushing hard back into physical media. I've ended my Crunchyroll subscription, and I'm going to be spending what I would have each month on Crunchyroll, going onto physical media. I am a Canuck. Why all the questions, Browlu? I'm just curious. Alrighty, let's keep getting these all chopped out. Yeah, digital media, it was a nice proposition for a while, you know. It was often cheaper than buying your media, you know. So it's like, oh, you know, you want to have a bunch of movies that you might want to watch. Well, rather than spending, you know, a few $100s on, you know, movies every year, you might spend $50 on, you know, a couple of subscription services or something like that. And it's like that seemed like a good value proposition, but over time the cracks have started to show. For one, getting good shows is now more often than not difficult. A lot of good shows will get canceled because, like, back in the days of a TV network, right? You always wanted something on at any hour of the day because that was the time you could make money, right? And so shows that weren't particularly popular but had a decent following could maintain, you know, budgets, and they could be sustained for a few years, finish up their stories, and be really nice things. They could become pillars of the TV industry on the backs of viewer ratings because there were enough people at those times looking for something. But because streaming has literally everything all of the time, and it's not, well, we need something to fill our prime time slot, or we need something to fill a this time slot or a that time slot, you know? We don't need something to air at like 11:30 at night on the Sci-Fi Channel. You're not gonna get, you know, weird, niche, nerdy videos not videos, series anymore, you know? That's where your Stars Trek, your Babylon's 5, your... I'm not going to pluralize the rest of them, that's kind of silly. But that's where a lot of pillars of the modern media landscape come from. It's where Flash Gordon saw long-term syndication after it was out of theaters, which helped inspire Star Wars. You know, it's where so much of the media we love these days existed, you know? The Office was a semi-prime TV series, a semi-prime time TV series. That basically got to exist because somebody needed something to fill that time slot, and it was popular enough to make, you know, make people tune in. So it didn't matter that it wasn't, you know, the biggest ratings darling out there. It's what made room for Parks and Rec. It's what made room for all these series, because there was always money that could be squeezed out of the time. You know? And it also is what gave rise to things like HBO, because maybe you want to see more adult content sometimes. So we have HBO, which gets around some more of the censorship and creates room for the, you know, golden age of TV from your, you know, long-running series like The Sopranos, ultimately being banked off of other, you know, just slightly prior media like Deep Space Nine, you know, and there was this whole ecosystem around basically television that created so much room for so much TV. And now a lot of that's gone. Now you might have a show that, you know, gets really big ratings because they dump all of it on you know, on day one, and it gets a lot of hype and people binge it and then it goes away. And it's like, well, there could be a season 2, but it all got dumped all at once, and there's no longevity to it. There's no viewer retention. And it's like, right, that's what a TV schedule did. It kept people coming back so that way ad space was valuable. You know, but streaming was kind of aping parts of the model without understanding how it worked, and it's left large parts of the industry gutted, and, like, I don't know. I don't think streaming is very good. Especially because what happened, too, was they knocked TV down so far, you know, that, you know, they became a dominant market force, and then what was their next way they could make money? Well, they'll upcharge the service, they'll lessen the quality of their streaming, so that way they can have more customers on the service, but rather than offering everyone, say, 4K, you know, it's all 1080p. Well, now you gotta pay for the 1080p that you got for free as an upgraded package, and now you get 720p, which is standard video. It's fine. It's, you know, there's a reason why it's still the standard. You know, an HD is still 1080p 4K, or 4K. But 720p or 720i, really, either one can work, are, TV was already doing those, and streaming carved up more and more and more of the market. And I'm just like, I don't really feel like doing streaming anymore. TV had its problems, right? Most of those were solved with having a mix of live TV and on-demand. Or through owning a DVR of some sort. Provided you have some way of recording your media, TV being live isn't hugely a problem unless you want to watch one thing and record another. Okay, so the way streaming fundamentally works is you have a company like Netflix, and they have a bunch of shows that they have paid for the rights to, well, stream. Then you hop onto their website and say, you go in and you basically tell the system, I would like to see this. It checks to see if they have it, and then your computer and their computer talk at each other, and you get the information. Your computer gets the information from them, and it decodes it into a video feed. And that process of getting live data from one thing and rendering it as fast as you can get it is called streaming. And it's actually how a lot of really useful technology works. It's actually not different from the way a live TV broadcast worked, in that, your TV was hooked up to, or was, listening to a broadcast and taking the signals it outputted and rendering them into a live feed. Now, one of two things could be done. This could either be done over a cable, hence cable, and then you're not listening to a broadcast, you are paying for a subscription. So someone from their company comes out, runs a cable into your house, puts it into a box that can essentially decode that signal, and there you go, you've got TV. Then people figured out that you could actually use the same kind of encryption methods for broadcast signals. And so some companies started airing encrypted TV on broadcast, which is basically where a big antenna uses some amount of the bandwidth that air can hold for data transmission, and shrieks, basically, out across a particular bandwidth that they've bought the right to use from the government, and you can have a little box that sits under your TV and decodes it. Now, the thing is, any amount of encryption method is eventually crackable. Especially if it's intended to be decrypted by another device. It will follow a logical pattern. So there were a lot of people who found ways to have this feed without paying for the service. Either someone would be moving and they would buy the box off them, and that person didn't know that they weren't supposed to sell the box, or people figured out how to reverse engineer the signals, or whatever. People eventually found methods through different means of acquiring access to these signals, and so every so often, the encryption method would have to change. With streaming, things got easier. Because rather than, you know, having to barf out signals over open airwaves, and theoretically anyone who could listen out for those airwaves could access them, it was suddenly, oh, well, you know, we've got this network infrastructure, and your computer can, you know, message our server, and we can have actual security that can detect whether or not you should be able to access our content. And, you know, and so once that happened, then it was like, okay, well, now that this thing can check to see who is and who isn't supposed to access the content, then you've basically stopped the old radio piracy, where someone could just listen out for the networks they wanted. Now, calling it piracy, to my mind, is a touch silly, because piracy is the crime of theft. All this is listening, basically. You know, you're not stealing anything, you're just listening out for a broadcast that exists, which is perfectly legal, and decrypting it, which is perfectly legal. All of the actual steps of it are technically legal, which is why it was kind of hard to stop people from doing. Companies would regularly try and stop it, but ultimately it was easier to basically try and prevent it without using the law as a bludgeon. But streaming basically put an end to that. Since you no longer needed to basically prevent people from accessing it without permission, because they couldn't. They would say, excuse me, I'd like this, and the server would go, do you have access to that? It would say, well, here's your computer will say, well, what do you need for me to tell you I have access to it? And it'd say, well, we'll need you to provide a key. And it would go, okay. And it would go, nope, your key doesn't work. And then you don't get access to the stream. Or if your key does work, hey, you get access. You know, the technology is rather rudimentary, but it is basically like having a guy standing at the door of the establishment. He goes, you know, do you know the password? And if you don't, he goes, sorry, move on, and kicks you back out. Or he doesn't let you in. And I think it's a rather clever way of solving the problem, but streaming writ large has done, I'm going to say, irreparable damage to the media landscape. I say irreparable. It might be repairable, but I don't know. I'll take physical media over the digital stuff, or over streaming at this point. Things like Twitch aside, Twitch and YouTube, those are nice. Those are basically the best version of streaming. It's just basically public access TV. Why am I doing it this way? This way is silly. Should be doing it like this. But, you know, when profit is the only metric of success that is cared about, streaming is potentially more profitable. seeks after his own god. Sometimes he seeks too long and finds nothing. Fair. I'm of the opinion that, you know, seeking profit as the main method of success, or the main metric to gauge success, I should say, is a rather, it's a method rather filled with pitfalls and perils. Especially not just profitability, but ever growing, ever hungering profits. You know, it'd be one thing if you're like, I want to make enough to make ends meet, right? Like, you know, so I'm gonna frame this as let's suppose you have a man who makes tables. Making tables is a very straightforward affair. You get some wood, you cut it into a table, basically. You cut some slabs up, glue the top together, or otherwise join it. You make the aprons, you make the legs, you join those together. You know, you build a table for all intents and purposes. And then you sell the table, right? You find someone who wants a table, you give them table, they have table. And then you make another table. And I don't think you should sell a table for less than it costs to make and for less than your labor is worth. You know? And having enough money left over after that, so that way you can buy enough material to make a new table, is very reasonable. Where I think the problem comes in is, okay, you're now making, let's suppose you're a table maker, and you make enough money off of tables so that way you can afford a comfortable living, a decent amount of saving, and, you know, a decent amount of savings for when times get lean, as they may. And you still make enough money after both of those to make another table every time. And then you think, I have knowledge that I would like to pass down to people who might want to make tables. So in order to take on an apprentice or something, you start charging more money so you can, you know, afford to teach an apprentice how to make tables. And so, you know, that works out well for you. And, you know, that's a very healthy way to go about it. Or you could take the opposite approach of you want to make your tables better for your customers. So you start to charge more so you can buy better equipments and better woods. You know, and now you've got your new better equipments and better woods to make your better tables. And then you think, I want to make this more profitable, right? I would like to be able to afford to help other people make money making tables. So you start charging enough money so that way you can hire on more people. And then, you know, that gives you more money to hire on more people. And now you have, you know, a shop where you have, let's say, 10 people making a table. Well, making tables, you know? Or maybe they're all specialized people. You know, one person's job is making the legs for the order, one person makes the aprons, one person makes the tops, another person does the assembly, one person does the finish and the polishing, you know, maybe another person does design, and now you've got those people making tables. You know, and that's a healthy way to run a business. But now there are other people in town who make tables. So you think, what if I undercut them on tables? So you start losing money on tables. Now you've built up a healthy, you know, backlog of cash. So you've got a decent amount in savings, so you can continue to sell tables on a loss, while your competitors slowly lose money on tables. You know, they have to compete with you, and they might not be in the same position you're in. So you eventually say, hey, let me buy out your table business. And you buy them out, you take on their employees, their infrastructure, their hardware, their clients. And now you have even more stuff that you can drive even further, and you push and you push and you push until you're the person making all of the tables in town. Well, how do you make more money from there? Well, you could start to scrimp and save your materials. You could switch from doing, you know, the nice fancy materials to using cheap materials as an inner layer and simply cladding your tables in a not insubstantial layer of the nicer materials, but, you know. And maybe the tops are veneered. With a not thin veneer, but not a solid top. Well, how do you make more money from there? Well, you have to cheapen your goods even further. And hello, Midnight. How you doing? Okay. I've got to get to the village because I've got to get the achievement for protecting a village from a lightning strike with a lightning rod. I've already got the rod out there. You fed a panda cake yet? I have not. I do intend to, though. See. Minecraft? No. Husbandry Adventure. Where is it here? Picked a villager from an undesired shop without starting a fire. Ah. Hmm. Okay, so Surge Protector. Yes, I have a PlayStation 2, a PlayStation 3, an Xbox 360. A Nintendo Switch, a Wii, a Wii U. I think the rain has switched from a thunderstorm. Just normal rain. I've got an NES and an SNES in storage. Nice. Personally, one system I really, really want to get at some point, I know it's not a console system is being generous, is a Game and Watch, specifically with Flagman. Game and Watch's Flagman, I've got it for the Game Boy Advanced, the one that has it, and I really like it. I like the game. One of my favorite mini games in Mario Party is Shy Guy Says, which is just Flagman, but for Mario Party as a mini game. And I think having just a way I could play it, I can just grab it, I can play it. I think that'd be fun. I could absolutely see it being part of my my EDC. Though I think what I'm much more likely to do is get a DS Lite and mod it into being something that can do that. Okay, maybe this was a less than ideal spot to build it. It was Nintendo's handheld before the Game Boy. Right now I'm digging out the shit, I'm gonna there we go. Right now I'm digging out spot for there we go. I'm digging out a spot for my copper golem sorting system, because personally I want to make it look nice and pretty and have it all like built into a structure, and I kind of want to sink the entire thing underground, so there's like an underground warehouse facility type deal. And I've not finished, but I'm getting close to having dug out all of the dirt for it. And then I'm going to start making my way into cutting out all the stone for it. So we got the design for it all worked out last time. Though, I am actually contemplating making a couple of changes to it. Nothing huge. I'm just not hugely sold on the rails that I've worked out. Shit. So right now they've got a couple of problems, and I have some ideas about solving those problems. Alright. There we go. I'm gonna just... This corner is gonna be a pain, so I'm just gonna deal with it now, even though I don't really want to have a perfectly finished off chunk of it yet. I think it's the only practicable solution. Practicable? Is that a word? Feels like it should be. Practicable. Ziggy, is practicable a word?
Yes. Pickable, definitely word. It means something that can be.
Okay. It is a word, and I used it in the right way. Cool. I figured it was. It sounded like it should be a word. Sounded kind of like a portmanteau of practical and implementable. Or doable. Practicable. But, yeah. So, gonna get this knocked out here. There we go. I think I may have accidentally picked potentially the worst place to do this project, because there's a whole bunch of hollow spots right under this. But oh well. I've already committed to it. Thank you for the head pat. My only console that I play regularly is my PlayStation 1. I rarely play the others. 90s were a pretty good time. Ah, they were just before my time. And, what's your question? Tiz and Gingy, thank you for the head pats. PlayStation 1, the magic words that summon a dingus VTuber fox. Yeah. The PlayStation 1 is just a bit before my time. I think the PlayStation 2 is a bit more contemporary with me. Since, you know, born in the 2000s, and I'm pretty sure the PlayStation came out in either the very late 90s or the early 2000s. I know it's a contemporary of the GameCube, so it feels like it's sort of around my era, but the Wii is really my first taste of video games. Like, my dad hooked up some emulators on our Windows Vista machine that we had, as the family computer. And those were alright, you know, playing on the NES and the SNES, but I didn't really take to them. I wouldn't mind doing a little bit of that, if you're still up after stream. I do have to get some stuff done after stream. Before I can do that, I've got to get some chores and whatnot done, but yeah. Well, I would not mind some super credit farming either. Atari 2600. Now that is a properly vintage console. And I think a really good one. Um I actually have the Wii Mini I was given for Christmas 1 year still. Um it's an excellent little console. I think that was after I already had a DS, which was the first if you'd call a DS a console, it was a DSi. Best way to grind them in the best way, so I'll tell you when you're able to play. Okie dokie. I really do want to get back into playing Helldivers more regularly. Because I really do enjoy it. Alright, need a new pickaxe. So I'm gonna go grab that. Oh, I forget. Tempest, I think, is the name of it. That's probably my favorite of the properly old or vintage uh, arcade games. That whole era of gaming had a lot of really interesting stuff going on in it, and I think we are worse for not still being in it. In some regards, not all regards, just some. Hello, panda. Goodbye, panda. Now, that's some surface lapis. Name the panda something funny? I was thinking of naming the panda Steven or Percival. I don't know why, but those were the two names that I was thinking about naming him. Percival the panda. Jack would work as well. Why would Jack work? I think thinking Percival because alliterative, you know, Percival the panda. You know, we'd go well with a Harold the horse. Oh, okay, okay. That makes more sense. Yeah, Jack Black is Kung Fu Panda. Okay. Alrighty. Dun. I really love the music of Minecraft. It's so cozy. It takes me right back to being a kid every time I hear those quiet piano lines. I think some of the new composers understood what worked about C418's music, and I'm not sure some of the others do. Like, I don't know if this track is one of C418's off the top of my head, but assuming that it isn't, right? Back from Timmy's. Hey, welcome back. What'd you get there, bud? What'd you get over on your Timmy's render, eh? Get yourself a double, you know, A 10 or a Timbits or some ice caps or something like that there. Or go more for like a French vanilla, get yourself a bag on cream cheese, you know. Proper more breakfast stuff, you know. Did you get one of them new fancy wraps that they got there? Medium mocha ice latte. Nice. Actually, speaking of beverages, well, they've got the chicken lime cilantro thing. They've got the veggie one. I think they're doing a Greek-inspired one. Can't wait to hear someone from where if they do do a Greek-inspired one, which I hear that they're doing. I can just imagine the people from where I'm from going, got myself the new gyro from Timmy's, and it's like it's a gyro with a r, not a g like gyro, not a j like gyro, a gyro, which is why some people think it's pronounced as euro, but it's a r. Gyro. 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 Technically. Though you sound very silly if you say gyro. So I can see why people in there's a fine line between pronouncing the name properly and putting on the accent to do it. Like, English doesn't have the sound in it. So, gyro is kind of weird for us to say. So I can absolutely see why the could become a gyro, or a gyro, or a gyro, or a gyro, or even just get chopped down to a euro. Like, any one of those makes sense. Because English just fundamentally lacks that vowel. Or that, not vowel, but that phoneme. There are a couple of interesting phonemes that English has that some languages lack, and an interesting set of phonemes that English lacks that other languages have. Tried the new chocolate pistachio ice cap. It's a normal ice cup with pistachio topping. Didn't really like it. That's fair. My guess is it's trying to tap into that Dubai chocolate thing. I don't know how pistachio tastes, so maybe it was supposed to taste bland. Okay, pistachios have a... how do I put it? Sort of like a... they taste the way you'd imagine, say, like, moss would. They've got, you know, sort of... they've got a nice flavor to them, but it's an earthy flavor. And I think against an ice cap, which is a dark, rich flavor that... you know, slightly vegetal, earthy, and mildly sweet flavor of a pistachio kind of gets lost and would leave it tasting rather bland, especially if you sweeten it. Pistachio can work when sweetened, but you really have to concentrate the pistachio flavor to compensate, because otherwise it'll just end up obliterated. That's mossed up. Well, it was my pun. And I'm not known for making good ones. Well, thank you. I'm glad you do. But yeah, that huh sound, English just doesn't have it. We actually used to though, which is why a lot of those things have been written as G's, because it's the same because the OUGH in through used to be through. In cough, it was koch, and laugh, it was lach. Um, in hiccup, it was hickoch, right? It was that sound. So anytime you see the OUGH, and you're like, what is this sound supposed to be? Try saying the rest of the word with the h, and then go, what would that make sense in modern English for the rest of the word around it? So if it's like, go through, so it's throch. Well, throw, and that doesn't work because that's a different English word. So maybe it could be, throff. That really isn't an English word. So maybe it's through, banking on the, way the air slips through as you do it, Maybe it's a koch, where it's relying on the as it gets pushed forward, like a cough pushes forward. They put too much ice in my drink. Oh no, that's not good. Old English really is funny and interesting, and it's slowly evolved, and sometimes the spellings got locked in before the pronunciations. Well, pronunciations are never locked in. It's actually funny. Over the last 100 years, we've actually seen a couple of words change in how they're pronounced. One of the funniest is the word covert. So the word covert is not related to the word overt. It's related to the word covered, hidden, disguised. It's covert. And that's how it's been pronounced for a long time is, if something is covert, then it has a covering on it. If it's an action, it has been covered, but if it's a adjective, then it's covered, right? So a hidden operation was a covert operation. The word overt was rather rare in English, but as the word overt grew in prominence over, that period of time from the 1850s through the 1950s, there started to be a change around the word that seemed to match it so well. If overt was out in the open, then something that is hidden was covert, so then it must be covert, wouldn't it? And so you go from people having covert operations to having covert operations. You know, especially when you can say, I covered it, or cover me. Why would you say that object was covered? It was covered. Especially because another trend happened in English. We started describing the past tense, or rather the present tense, as the past tense. So if your desk is covered in stuff, you know, you say it's covered in stuff, as in someone took an action in the past which covered it. The desk wasn't covered in stuff, because it can't be. The desk is covered, but it was covered. So if your desk was covered up, well, with the present tense starting to be described with the past tense's verbiage, words, using past tense words, slowly, covert's present tense usage became linked more with overt. Basically, a word changed meaning over the past 100-some-odd years. Or not meaning, but pronunciation over the past 100-some-odd years. Yeah, because, you know, covert operation sounds really cool, but a covert operation just sounds so silly. It was a covert operation where we went in and we stole some things, yeah. It sounds like a bunch of silly Germans who drink cola and play Fortnite. Yippee! You know, whereas covert operation sounds like the kind of thing that secret agents are engaged in. And it's like, it's the same word, just different pronunciation. My mom let me stop, play Fortnite, and drink cola. Yippee! I love that clip of the kid. It's such a genuine excitement. It's like, I'm not even like, dumb kid. I'm like, oh, that's cute. You know, that kind of genuine excitement, I think we need more of it. Not to moralize about something, but I think society has become overly critical of genuineness. Like, online, people aren't into things, they're ironically into it, you know? Like, oh yeah, I like this thing. That's lame, isn't it? Or isn't it? I say isn't it, but it's lame, isn't it? Or whatever, and it's like, no. Liking shit is generally positive. I think it's a backlash, almost internally, to fandom culture, to overexcitabilities or whatever, and it's like, right, but just genuinely like the things you like. You can have a healthy interest in things. It is entirely possible. You know, we're like, oh, you like things? That's cringe. And it's like, no, no, I think finding that other people find joy in something cringe is the cringe thing to do. They might be doing something cringeworthy, you know, or something that makes you personally cringe, but like, enjoying something isn't cringy. Not inherently. So just that kid being like genuinely excited. My mom let me stay up and drink cola and play Fortnite. Eevee! It just makes my brain go, I hope that kid never loses that, you know, excitedness. You know, I hope that kid enjoys his interests, you know, passionately for the rest of his hopefully many days. Can't seem to find the meme I was looking for. My friend sent it to me a long time ago. Ah, okay. While I'm on the topic of complaining about things, another thing I really don't particularly like is people saying that it's not that deep about stuff, right? Like I get that it's meant to be, at least theoretically. I've seen people argue, right, that it's meant to be when someone is, you know, overly obsessed in something that is functionally a deepity, which a deepity is when something has the illusion of being deep, but it is not, in fact, at all deep. Um, like, an example that gets brought up whenever people are trying to defend this is, you know, the teacher going, well, what does the color blue for the curtains mean? Right? And it's like, maybe the curtains were blue? And it's like, right, that would be a kind of silly thing to get caught up on. Unless the author was someone who, you know, used color symbolism a lot, you know? Like, an example of that is I forget who the author is off the top of my head. But so they'll often use colors to symbolize emotion throughout their work, but the characters won't be expressing emotions, they'll be expressing colors, you know? So, you know, the character is described as being blue with misery or red with hate. And it's like, that creates a very evocative feeling in the mind. And, you know, as you get deeper into some of their books, I can't remember the name of the author for the life of me. They will actually just use the color. You know, they were red, they were blue. Because even using other words had become sort of a way of explaining what they were feeling. And it's like, feelings aren't like that. They're visceral, you know? You can say, well, this is anger. This is what anger looks like. This is what it feels like. And it's like, right, but someone else might feel a different sort of anger. So being red, being hot with, you know, hot with anger, with hate. You're giving context to what the feeling is, but sometimes you're just feeling the feeling of ah. What feeling is ah? I don't know. We don't really have a word for it. Could it be frustration? Could it be anger? Could it be whatever? And it's like, whatever it is not a pleasant emotion, but it's certainly an emotion. And so, you know, it's not that deep. Maybe makes sense if it really isn't necessarily that deep. But if someone has managed to plumb logical depths out of something, it is, in fact, that deep. You know, it maybe wasn't intentionally that deep, but, you know. Like, okay, so there's a Canadian comedy series, that I really enjoyed watching called Schitt's Creek, right? I don't know if anyone here knows about Schitt's Creek or not, but if you do, neat. Um, One of the characters, Alexis, okay, mild spoilers for a sitcom that's been off the air for a while. Closer to the latter, but not quite. It's the one where they moved to a town that they bought the deed of as a joke. If that clears it up for you. So anyway, one of the characters is Alexis, and so she gets portrayed as a very shallow character a lot. She cares about social media. She has that sort of, hi, I'm on social media kind of voice. She thinks and talks a lot about, you know, drama and things like that. And she gets into a relationship with a character called, which the show refers to as Mutt. I'm not sure if that's his name or not, off the top of my head. And, anyway, so Mutt is a very reserved, very quiet character who does not speak a lot. He tends to let his actions speak for him. And one thing that does with Alexis is because she likes to know what people are thinking about, it kind of drives her a little bit batty, you know? And she expresses that she wants to know what he's thinking. And so one thing that she says is, I will talk less and you can talk more. Because she's thinking, well, maybe it's that I talk all the time that you don't. And there's this scene where they're just sitting there in silence after she says that. And then, you know, the next thing that happens regarding them is that they've broken up, right? Now, I've seen a couple of I haven't seen many takes on the show from people other than that it was funny. But if I've seen anyone mention that scene, it's been saying that Alexis is a shallow character because she can't see that Mutt is talking with his actions. And it's like, I don't necessarily see it that way. Alexis is asking for Mutt to basically share his internal thoughts with her, and, you know, because they want to be together, they want to have a relationship, and what Alexis needs is to know what's going on in people's heads to be able to communicate with them. And, you know, I don't think that Alexis's whole social media thing necessarily makes her a shallow character. I think it's that she desires communication, and this is a lot of modern communication. And because it's been the bulk of human communication, it's been gossip, it's been rumors, it's been drama, and the internet is just a bigger stage for a lot of that communication that society has in it. And, you know, when she's with the people she cares about, that whole liking drama thing tends to go away. So I don't think she's a shallow character. I think she's a character with a complicated inner world who, especially with Mutt, didn't work because Mutt was not capable of opening up in the way that Alexis needed for the relationship, and Alexis was not capable of not needing that for the relationship. And I think characterizing that as shallow is... I don't know. I think it suggests that people don't value active communication in relationships, despite it being fundamentally the foundation of healthy relationships, is active communication, the ability to express what you need and what you want from both parties, you know? And the way that Alexis is hurt following Mutt characterizing the relationship as having been largely because they enjoyed physical intimacy together, it's clear that that wasn't the relationship to her. You know, it wasn't just the physical intimacy. You know, and, you know, I'm not gonna spoil the other characters, that she gets in relationships with and things like that, but, you know, like, if someone was just in the relationship for physical intimacy, they wouldn't be emotionally wrecked by it ending. You know, it might suck, but ultimately, oh well. You know? But she's actively physically upset by it. She, you know, she spends a lot of time feeling unwell because it wasn't just, well, you know, sex is nice. It was, I cared about this person, and the reason the relationship broke down was not because I was too shallow or because they weren't deep enough, which I guess is just being too shallow, but framed from someone who cares about depth over other things, which I would argue is actually just another form of being shallow. It was that the person didn't open up. You know, and I think that, I don't know, I think it's interesting how the character dynamic is characterized by people who like Alexis versus didn't like Alexis, because both of them tend to frame it as being shallow. And it's like, I'm someone who was kind of on Alexis, but like, she wasn't a shallow character. She did genuinely value Mutt and would go on to genuinely value the other people that she had relationships with over the course of the show, for the most part. One of the things that's really funny about the show, actually, having come from a small town and then moving to the city, is like, this is absolutely the equivalent of small town bashing its head against big city, and vice versa, you know? The main cast of characters who end up in Schitt's Creek are, they're from the big city, and they were fairly wealthy, and now they're not, so a lot of their skills which are one, those of urbanites, but also those of wealthy people, have just completely gone down the tubes. And it's interesting seeing the clash. Um, it's a really great series if you like sitcoms and uh you know familial drama type shows, but not in the, soap opera-esque, oh my goodness, your cousin Ernesto. Ah, I thought it was you because you're twins, but you're not twins, you're cousins. Ah. It's not like one of those soap operas. It's actually a really funny character-driven show. And it's 6 seasons long. It's really good. Yeah, so it's not a hugely intensive watch. The only soap opera I've seen is General Hospital. I haven't even seen that. I've seen bits and pieces of Grey's Anatomy, if that counts as a soap opera, and bits and pieces of Coronation Street because my grandparents watched it. But that's bits and pieces. Well, that's fair. That's fair. I don't think they count, but you do you. I suppose I can see that. Yeah, it does kind of give off the same sort of vibe as a soap opera at times. Also, I'm going to be completely honest. You said Saw, I read Saw out loud, but my brain processed it as Chucky. I don't know why, but my brain was just like, different horror franchise. That's the one you're thinking this is. You're like, Saw, yeah, the one with the puppet. Called Chucky. Look, I never claimed to be smart. That was always the thing other people claim about me, not myself. Excuse me. my spine was a little bit crumpled up there. Much better now. One thing that I'm really glad I did with my current computer setup, so there's all these rules about, or I say rules, there are ergonomic guidelines about how computers are supposed to sit and things like that. And one thing that you're supposed to do is sit with a computer in the, so that way its top third is centered on your eye line. So that way you're not craning your neck to look up at it. And it's like, okay, so I'm 6'3.5", and let's say I put a computer in the top, the top third of the computer was middle of my eye line. That would sit just slightly proud of where my webcam is. And see, the idea is that you can glance down with your eyes to read what's lower on it, but I've always just slumped my body forward on my chair whenever the computer monitor is too low for me. Because I want it about middle of my line of vision, right? And so that leads to all sorts of problems. So by putting my monitor where the middle of it is actually dead center on my eye line, it's like its middle is my eye line's middle, you know? And I don't have an ultra-wide monitor, but I've got two monitors flanking it on the sides that are vertical rather than horizontal. I'm thinking about getting a smaller monitor, actually, for the one off to the side. More of like a square monitor. You know, a 4x3 rather than a 16:9 for my OBS viewer. Just so that way it runs in a more widescreen configuration rather than a vertical config. Because right now, like, there are pros to it, there are cons to it. Keyboard setup like I use. I'm gonna be honest, I've forgotten your mouse and keyboard setup, but I know it's cursed, hun. I know you use an absolutely cursed mouse and keyboard setup, X. And Icy, hello, thank you for the mean. Lefty mouse user, right-handed mouse settings. Oh, that's fucked. I remember that now. Alright, thank you for the hydrate and stretch. Up, forward, up, and left, up, and forward, up, right. You know, I was talking about, just want to give a warning, it's loud. Okie dokie. Well, you can send it over. I will check it out after stream. Oh, I know. It's just incredibly cursed. Oh, Ix, speaking of Helldivers, me and Tiz were gonna play some after stream and after I do a little bit of tidying up. I got to clean the living room up and the bathroom, but after that, would you want to join me and Tiz for some Helldivers? Removing a chunk? No, just clearing out an area. Yeah, tonight. I'm just removing this area, which is 40 by 33 by 19. So that way I can build an item sorting system with copper golems. Nice. Okie dokie. Remember, copper golems only go up to 10 chests? Yep. So I'm gonna have... So the way I plan on having it is I have an entry sorter where there are 10 chests, and then those 10 chests can hold a bunch of general items, and then those items get filtered out to their own more compact sorters. So sort of like a two-stage solution. So it's like all of the food goes to this one chest, and then all of the stones go in that chest, and then all of the dirts go in that chest, and then all of the woods go in that chest, and then it gets sent to the next one where it's like, okay, these are all of the ones that grow like wheat, and these are all of the ones that grow like carrots, and then these are all of the ones that grow like pumpkins, you know, for all of the grown crops. And then, you know, these are all of the oak items, and these are all of the birch, and all of the cherry, and all of the and with the stones, it's like, you know, here's all of the smooth stone, they're cobblestone variants. So smooth stone, the kind that's not stone bricks, like the half slab, and then the full block that's like it, stone bricks, cracked stone bricks, moss stone bricks, all of those. And then, you know, these are all of the nether derived ones, so netherrack, and then, you know, nether brick, and then the nether brick fences, and stairs and slabs all getting their chest, and take forever. Kind of wish they straight up to the chest and put it in. Yeah, that's fair. My thinking is more, I don't need a hyper fast solution. I more want a thing where it's like, I can finish up a stream, empty my inventory, walk away, leave the thing running for like an hour, turn my, close out the world, come back for the next stream and go, okay, this is what I'm doing this stream, grab the items that I want out of the sorting system, you know. So I'm not looking for hyper efficiency, I'm just looking for a chill little sorting system. You know, something that automates it rather than having me do it. And I've worked out the food chest, given what I'm going to be using as the filler block in the sorter. I've worked out what it needs to be and why the first chest needs to take it. I'm going to use wheat, because I can get fuckloads of wheat very quickly to bulk out the sorting system. Just absolute fuckloads of it. Just pack it full of wheat that I can just farm. So it's like, I need wheat, I'll grow shitloads of wheat, run it into the system, so that way all of the chests are all full of wheat. And then what I can do, right, is I can take all of that wheat out, craft it up into bread, and then I've perfectly filled the system. From there, all I need to do is take out the blocks that need replacement. And I will have fuckloads of bread for when I need it. There's also going to be an overflow section where things that basically can't go anywhere because they've overflown are basically going to get basically recirculated. You know, copper golems are going to keep taking them out, putting them in, checking to see, go, nope, this is full, move on. Is this free? Nope, this is full, move on. And then they'll just keep sort of bloop, 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 through the system. Wonder what's next, farmer golems? See, we can already automate farming with villagers. My thinking for what's probably next as a golem, if they're going to do another golem, is giving us actual ranged combat golems. I know we've got snow golems, but I could very much see them introducing a proper ranged golem. One where, you know, it has bow and arrow or some other projectile that it actually throws that can actually do damage to enemies. Zero damage snowball. Yeah. The snow golems, like, the snow golems can work as a part of a base defense, but they're a very specific kind of base defense. Bow and arrow, now that I had an update idea on a few months ago. Oh, okay. You want to expand on that idea? The fletching table is the name, so fletching madness would do that. Ah, okay. That would be really interesting. Getting a proper, like, bow and arrow. Bow and arrow update. Gonna get my bread all soggy. Soggy bread. Not too bad if it's like a mushroom gravy or something, but I don't know. I think plain water, probably not very tasty. I need to get back to making my own bread. I was really enjoying baking my own bread, and then I stopped when I got injured. Beer bread is a thing, though I was actually making sugar-free bread. You know, where it was just flour and yeast and salt and other stuff. One thing that I really do want to set up with this is specifically, okay, I'm not going to give kelp or bamboo anywhere in the system to go. So that way they have to be taken out as part of their own sorting infrastructure. And what I'm going to have is, I'm going to see if I can set up an item splitter, where half of the bamboo will get sent into the system to be stored, and half of the bamboo will be funneled out. That way I can actually still keep my automated kelp farm going, or my automated kelp block thing going as a thing. So that way I can have... What I want to do is set up an auto smelting system where I can just put in things that need smelted. I can put in, you know, ingots, things like that, and they'll just end up out as raw resources. Or not raw, but the ingots. Or maybe for storage, convert everything into blocks. I don't know. They did need an auto crafter behind it, so I'm thinking just ingots. One of my ideas is the fletching table will be key to making bows with special abilities besides enchantment and tipped arrows. Different ore added, though would cause different effects. That could be neat. So I think, personally, I would make a fletching table necessary to making upgraded bows. Sort of giving the bow a similar sort of progression, with, you know, maybe you're able to make a copper bow. You make a wooden bow, then skip stone, but then you can make a copper bow, which can deliver more damage, but is less durable than a wooden one, because copper, while being ductile, is not as elastic as, say, steel is. And so then you can make an iron bow, you know, trading on the idea of spring steel, and have it be a more powerful but more durable bow, at both regards. Could make it out of exotic woods or wood and bone for a composite bow. Yeah, that would be a theoretically viable thing. Okay, I'm gonna lure you over to where you're gonna be useful if you blow. There we go. You could make Minecraft bows better, but Mojang a modded update, so it's not for real update, lol. Yeah, I could see a Combat 2 update including that. They've already shown that they're up for adding new items. We've gotten the trident, we've gotten the hammer. I would probably see them do it through a Minecrafty way, though. Like, you can get blaze rods, so maybe you make a blaze bow, which fires flame arrows. Which is the same way as getting, you know, a fire aspect bow, but instead of, you know, needing to enchant it, you get this blaze bow. Or they've added those wind rods, so maybe you get increased range with a wind rod bow. And that feels like keeping it Minecrafty without making it sort of modded, if that makes sense. Or, for example, you could make end rod arrows, where, you know, like they fired and then they were like a light source, where they stuck and landed. Yeah, though I would think, not a full block of TNT, but maybe gunpowder and a leather. Sort of like the idea of like a pouch of gunpowder. So that when it strikes, you get a little baby explosion. Not the kind of thing that blows up blocks, but the kind of thing that does blast damage. Maybe specialty arrows could also be a thing, so rather than making, say, a bow, out of blaze rods. You could get, you know, blaze arrows, where the blaze rod is replacing the stick as a flaming bow. Hand mortar is a thing. That's true, a hand mortar is as well, though I think guns are not likely to see themselves in Minecraft. Even primitive flintlock style firearms, or even older, basically hand cannons, I think would feel out of place. Minecraft sort of exists in a nebulous pseudo-medieval. And while cannons did exist in the tail end, and even hand cannons, I don't know. I don't feel like it would quite fit with Minecraft, but I definitely see where you're going with it. I could see on a fletching table, maybe making longbows as a thing as well. Like, you know, you take a normal bow, and then you can, say, add an extra thing to it, be it extra sticks and string. Essentially in a bow configuration, but with, an old bow taking up the middle slot. And then you get a longbow. And I know that wouldn't be realistic to making a longbow. You couldn't just take a longbow or take a normal bow and add extra material to its limbs to make it a longbow. I'm just thinking about, like, make a mod idea, but forget the name, I have it. Just call it, Shiver Skeleton. We will shoot special arrows that freeze you, just like when you're in the snow effect that damages... Ah! Okay, that I think is a rather interesting idea for an Arctic skeleton mob. I think they have an icy skeleton, and I think that would make, the bow for it feel interesting. Because right now, we're getting a lot of re-flavors of other mobs that have, like, visual changes. But, they're not mechanically different. And I think having mechanically different variants would be rather interesting. You know, I want more mechanically interesting mobs. Because right now we're getting a lot of, like I said, retextured ones. I also want them to bring back the zombie pigmen. I do not like the zombie piglins. I don't really care how they bring them back. I want them back. I have a plushie of a zombie pigman because next to Enderman, they are my next favorite mob, and I am sad that they are no longer there. Yeah, bringing the Nether reactor core. It wasn't a Mojang idea, but I personally really like the idea of the Nether reactor core. I have ideas about what it could be used for in a Minecraft, like in modern Minecraft. because I don't think no, Enderman is first. Zombie pigmen are second. Endermen are first, obviously. Like, this is my skin. I've had it since I was a kid. Okay, so I think Endermen are okay. So when I was a kid, I just thought they were neat, and that's entirely the reason that Kid Me had for liking them is they're neat. They move blocks. They're cool. Um, but as I've grown up, I've actually started thinking about how they're a really mechanically interesting mob. They're a mix of hostile and non-hostile. You have to you don't have to engage hostilely with them. They're capable of, theoretically anyway, engaging in the world in potentially creative ways, though it's actually just an emergent behavior of mechanics. But it leads to some really interesting things. The way they behave as a set of emergent behaviors from the rules they're built around. I don't know. I think it leads to really interesting sets of behavior from them, as well as really interesting player behavior in response to them. They are, to my mind, the gold standard for what Minecraft mobs should be. Is they should be something that is mechanically interesting and forces the player to think in mechanically interesting ways. The Creeper is mechanically interesting since I think they're also largely a semi-passive mob. They can't really hurt you. Like, they detect you, they move towards you, but the only way they can really do something bad is if you let them, either by not reacting to them when they start to hiss, or by allowing them to blow up for whatever reason, or through lack of skill in dealing with them. And I think that also leads to a lot of mechanically interesting behavior. And personally, I wish more Minecraft mobs had mechanically interesting behavior. You've got the villagers, you've got the pillagers, you've got... What is the wandering trader selling? Let's see. A bottle of water for an emerald, a hay bale for an emerald, or an emerald that can have spruce, mangrove, purple dye, wheat seeds, cyan dye, or cornflowers, or jungle saplings for 5. Huh. I have no emeralds. I do like your leads, though. So I think I'm going to have them. That's not bad. Yeah, I just didn't need anything he was selling. And the thing that I wanted that he had was leads. Now I have leads. Panda, hello. Can I get a shout out for Panda, please and thank you? If we have any mods lurking in chat, otherwise I will do it manually. Oh, was on parade. Cute pandas on a cute parade. And Panda, thank you for shouting yourself out. Thank you, Panda. And Panda, thank you for the 200 bits. That is very much appreciated. Excuse me. But yeah, I personally like when Minecraft mobs have very interesting emergent behavior. Let's see. Hoppers, now we need sideways hoppers can already... Oh, do you mean like where they funnel items? Actually, they can already funnel items sideways if you feed them into each other like that. Like the world that got deeper, but the ocean stayed the same with no deeper parts for more unique world gen and structure? I'm not sure if I'm missing a message or something. Okay, here would be an interesting potential idea for another reactor in modern Minecraft. Okay, so you have a biome, like, let's say a jungle, right? Now, this is a Terraria-inspired idea, so I want to be upfront about where I'm getting the idea from. But, what if the Nether reactor would rewrite the biome top to bottom, keeping its, you know, whatever structure it currently has, and turning it into a nether biome. So, you know, the deserts, the mountains, the whatever, you know, deserts getting turned into, you know, soul sand deserts, any of the forest biomes becoming one of the nether forest biomes, mountainous areas becoming basalt deltas. If it's an ocean, then it becomes a lava ocean. And not as like a low, you know, not like the Terraria's slow spreading corruption, but like you activate it in the biome and it just goes and the whole thing gets transformed. Dirt gets replaced with netherrack, stone with, I don't know, some sort of nether stone. Maybe blackstone. Ores get overwritten with gold and quartz and things like that. Nether mobs start spawning instead of overworld mobs. You know, and it doesn't spread outside of whatever biome you've activated it in. It's like a one-time consumable type deal. Where it activates, it figures out the borders of this biome, and the underground sections, and it appropriately overwrites everything below it into nether biomes that are appropriate for it. So if you've got a desert, but underground you've got, you know, lush caves, maybe the surface is soul sand desert, but deeper underneath is, you know, one of those nether areas and things like that. I think that could be a use for nether reactors. Or the other thought that I have is every overworld biome could get a nether biome equivalent, but they don't spawn in the nether. You have to use a nether core reactor to basically turn that biome into its nether equivalent. So the mushroom biome having, if it gets activated, you get fungal hoglins instead of mushrooms. You get, instead of the red and brown big mushrooms, you get nether warts, but giant ones. You get a netherized version of mycelium. Maybe the fungal hoglins are an actively passive mob rather than being hostile like the normal hoglins. Maybe because they have the same sort of fungal stuff that the mushrooms had, just a nether varietal. Any surface lakes get turned into surface lava lakes. It'd be a big job, but I think that would be a really interesting way to resurrect the nether reactor, as a way of bringing nether into the overworld through essentially biome transformation. That's just my thought on it, anyway. That is just my thought. Icy, are you already in the Discord? Because if you're not, you can get there with !Discord. And actually, same to everyone else who's watching, if you're not already in the Discord, you can do !Discord to join. And that'll give you updates when I go live. I'm going to be posting the new streaming schedule in there. It's not going to be a weekly thing yet, where it's changing every week. It's just going to be a standing schedule. And it's going to be rough. It's going to be approximate. But, I've got, I'm trying to get back into streaming 3 times a week, and, so far, I've been enjoying it over the past couple weeks. And I want to keep it going, so, yeah. I just thought I'd bring up the server in case you wanted to be informed of when I go live and stuff. Because we are reaching the end of today's stream. Though, if Jensen is live, I'm going to be raiding over to him, and he is a wonderful bean, so... Minecraft for so long that I haven't killed the dragon. I got texted. Okay. But yeah, Jensen really is amazing. I was just getting let know that dinner was ready. So that makes the timing fortuitous. All right, sorry about that. After getting texted and replying, thanks for letting me know, someone came to physically let me know. But yeah, so all that being said, this has been a really, really good stream. Yeah. I have very much enjoyed it. We've got the pit, I'd say about halfway dug out. Over the past 3 hours, and hopefully we're gonna get the next sideways slabs when Mojang. Oh yeah, we need sideways slabs, and we needed them yesterday. Actually, we needed them in like 2013. So we needed them over a decade ago, and I just feel old now. So let's go say hi to Jensen, assuming he is live. Let's see here. Jensen. Say it's not Minecraft, like, bruh, it would make builds better. It really would. Um... Okay, Jensen does not appear to be live. So let's go say hi to another Minotaur, who is always fun to hang out with. It really does. Sideways slabs are excellent. Let's go say hi to Yuma. Alright, and here is our raid message. Sharks tunnel on in from Minecraft. And for those of you who have access to the emotes, please do consider using this variation. But it is time to raid on out, so copy that onto your keyboards. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing rest of your day. Bye now. Why isn't this working?